Ain't no charge worse in the pen than being labeled a predator. And in David's case,
dude, these people are talking to a known underage, dating a adult, brother. These people are talking to a underage person knowingly that they're underage, like knowing that they're dating a adult.
The streets think it's even deeper than that. Now insiders are already talking about how his time locked up gonna look. And trust me, his cell life ain't sweet. Here's the cold reality waiting for him. The body in the Tesla, a discovery that shook the internet. The story kicks off like some wild scene out of Netflix doc. What seemed like a normal September morning in 2025 quickly spiraled into one of the craziest scandals the music game has ever seen. On September 8th, 2025, workers at Hollywood Tow, a regular impound lot out in LA, stumbled on something that flipped D4vd's whole career upside down. What started as just a routine call about a car that smelled foul turned into a full-blown homicide case, and the internet hasn't stopped buzzing since. The ride wasn't just any random whip. It was a 2023 Tesla Model 3, clean and slick, and it was registered to none other than David Anthony Burke, known worldwide as D4vd. Just 3 years before this, he was some suburban teen grinding Fortnite montages in his bedroom. By 20, he had blown up into a chart-topping R&B star with over 30 million monthly listeners, pulling billions of streams off hits like Romantic Homicide and Here With Me. Dude went from bedroom to billboard fast. But that morning, none of that mattered. The Tesla had been sitting abandoned for about 5 days on Bluebird Ave and Doheny Drive before it got hauled to the impound. Folks working there kept noticing a nasty, sour stench creeping stronger by the day. At first, they thought maybe it was a dead cat or some animal stuck under the car. But when it got unbearable, they called LAPD, and that's when everything shifted.
And that's when they opened that front hatch on the Tesla and found the bag with the body parts.
And they call that the frunk, if I'm not mistaken, in the front of the Tesla. It's like the trunk in the front.
What officers discovered inside the front trunk, or frunk as Tesla owners call it, was beyond anything they could have imagined. Wrapped in plastic bags and stuffed into the cramped space was a severely decomposed human body, described as not intact and showing signs of having been dismembered. The condition of the remains suggested the person had been dead for an extended period, potentially months, with the Los Angeles summer heat accelerating the decomposition process to a horrific degree. The discovery immediately triggered a massive investigation led by the LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division. Crime scene investigators descended upon the impound lot, processing every inch of the Tesla for evidence, while the medical examiner's office began the painstaking process of attempting to identify the victim. The advanced state of decomposition made this task extraordinarily challenging, with initial reports unable to even determine the victim's age, gender, or ethnicity with certainty. For over a week, the story dominated headlines with one burning question: who was the victim found in David's car? The singer himself was thousands of miles away in the middle of his Withered World tour, performing in Minneapolis when news of the discovery broke. His representatives quickly issued a statement saying he had been informed about the incident and is fully cooperating with authorities, while maintaining he had no clue anything untoward was going on with the vehicle. The breakthrough came 9 days later, on September 17th, 2025, when the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office made an announcement that would send shockwaves through social media and beyond. The victim had been identified as Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a 15-year-old girl from Lake Elsinore, California, who had been reported missing since April 2024. She had vanished at the age of 13, and for over a year, her family had been searching desperately for any trace of their beloved daughter. The identification process itself revealed disturbing details that would fuel weeks of online speculation and investigation. Celeste's identity was confirmed partly through a distinctive shh tattoo on her right index finger, a detail that would prove to be far more significant than anyone initially realized.
They certainly had some of them because the police did say that she had this tattoo, which is very interesting, something we found out, but she had a tattoo on her right index finger that said the letters SHHH ...
When photos began circulating online, internet sleuths made a chilling discovery. David himself had an identical tattoo in the exact same location on his right index finger. This wasn't just any random tattoo design. It was a specific pattern that, while popularized by celebrities like Rihanna and Lindsay Lohan, was uncommon enough that having two people connected to this case sporting identical ink raised immediate red flags. Social media exploded with side-by-side comparisons of the tattoos, with users demanding answers about what this connection could possibly mean. The significance of this discovery was first reported by TMZ producer Charles Latibaudiere, who explained on the Banfield show how they helped identify the body.
We also know that the car had been abandoned on that street in the Hollywood Hills for at least 3 days. before it was impounded. We've also spoken to neighbors in that area who said that there were people who had walked by the car and had noticed a bad odor, and that they kind of thought it was either a dead animal somewhere, either under the car or near the car.
The timeline of events painted an even more disturbing picture. Celeste had disappeared in April 2024 when she was just 13 years old, yet the decomposition of her remains suggested she had died much more recently. This raised haunting questions about what had happened during those missing months. Had she been alive somewhere, hidden away from her family and the authorities who were searching for her? The implications were too terrible to fully comprehend. As news of the identification spread, more disturbing details began to emerge from Celeste's family. Her mother revealed to TMZ that her daughter had been dating an older boyfriend named David around the time of her disappearance, a revelation that sent chills through anyone following the case. The fact that David's real name was David Anthony Burke seemed like far too significant a coincidence to ignore. The internet responded with the fury and speed that only social media can generate. Within hours of the identification announcement, hashtags like #JusticeForCeleste and #DavidTesla were trending globally, with millions of posts dissecting every aspect of the case. True crime communities on Reddit, Twitter, and TikTok began compiling timelines, analyzing photos, and connecting dots that painted an increasingly damning picture. The media coverage was relentless and immediate. Major outlets from NBC News to the BBC picked up the story, with headlines screaming about the decomposed body and the missing teen. The story dominated news cycles, with coverage appearing on outlets ranging from Al Jazeera to local Los Angeles stations, each trying to piece together how a rising music star's vehicle had become the final resting place for a missing teenager. But perhaps most chilling of all was the complete silence from David himself. While his representatives continued to insist he was cooperating with authorities, the artist who had built his career on sharing his emotions through music suddenly had nothing to say. His social media accounts, once bustling with tour updates and fan interactions, went dark. The contrast was stark and unsettling. Here was someone who had made millions of dollars singing about heartbreak and relationships, yet when faced with the most serious situation of his life, he offered only silence. The ramifications were immediate and severe. Brands that had partnered with David, including Crocs and Hollister, quickly severed ties, canceling collaborations and removing promotional content featuring the singer. Fellow artists began distancing themselves as well, with Kaylee Uchis announcing she was pulling their collaboration from streaming platforms. As the first part of this story concludes, we're left with more questions than answers. How did a 15-year-old girl end up dead in a rising star's Tesla? What was the nature of the relationship between Celeste and the much older musician? And perhaps most disturbingly, how many people in David's circle might have known something was wrong but chose to stay silent? The discovery in that Hollywood impound lot was just the beginning. What investigators and internet sleuths would uncover next would reveal a pattern of behavior far more disturbing than anyone initially imagined, involving alleged grooming, manipulation, and a web of enablers who may have helped cover up one of the music industry's darkest secrets. The dark web of connections, uncovering a pattern of predation. As the initial shock of discovering Celeste Rivas's body in David's Tesla began to settle, a far more sinister picture started to emerge from the depths of the internet. What began as speculation about a tragic coincidence quickly evolved into a comprehensive expose of alleged grooming, manipulation, and a disturbing pattern of behavior that had been hiding in plain sight for years. The evidence that surfaced would not only implicate David in potentially predatory behavior, but would also expose a network of enablers who allegedly knew about his inappropriate relationships with minors and chose to remain silent. The first major breakthrough came from an unlikely source, a leaked demo track that had been circulating in underground music communities since December 2023. The song, titled Celeste_Demo, contained lyrics that were eerily prophetic given the recent discovery. The track featured David singing explicitly about a girl named Celeste with haunting lines like, "Oh Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. I'm obsessed." The timing of this leak, months before Celeste's disappearance in April 2024, raised immediate questions about the nature of their relationship and how long David had known the victim. But the leaked song was just the tip of the iceberg. As internet investigators dove deeper into David's digital footprint, they uncovered a treasure trove of evidence suggesting a relationship that had been developing for years. Screenshots from David's Discord server, dating back to 2022, showed conversations between the singer and a user named Celeste, with exchanges that appeared flirtatious and inappropriate given her age. In one particularly damning exchange, exchange, the user wrote, "Hi, David Bart," while David responded with what appeared to be encouragement and attention. The timeline that emerged from these Discord logs was deeply troubling. If authentic, these conversations showed David interacting with Celeste when she was as young as 11 or 12 years old, while he was 17 or 18. The power dynamic was stark. A rising music star with millions of followers engaging with a child who idolized him. What made it worse was that these weren't isolated incidents, but appeared to be part of an ongoing pattern of communication that spanned years. The disturbing nature of these connections was captured in a viral social media post by a user who had been trying to expose David since 2023, as shown in this clip.
So obviously y'all have seen the current David situation. In this video, I just want to address some stuff. Now, a lot of people on Twitter are mad at me because in 2023, I tried to expose David for what he was doing at the time. And I just want to clear up that the stuff from 2023 was not about the Celeste girl that was obviously recently in the news. It's nothing to do with her.
This revelation opened the floodgates for other victims and whistleblowers to come forward. Multiple users on platforms like Twitter and Reddit began sharing their own experiences and evidence of David's alleged pattern of inappropriate behavior with underage fans. Screenshots, direct messages, and witness accounts painted a picture of a young man who had been using his growing fame to groom and manipulate minors, with Celeste being just one of potentially many victims.
The stuff I have from 2023 was nothing to do with Celeste. These were other girls, underage girls, that had claimed David had messaged them or had, relationships with them or, doing inappropriate things with them. And I want people to know that in 2023, I did try and bring the situation to light. And a lot of people remember, I was having a lot of shit for it. It got so bad that David's legal team had got in contact with me to remove everything. I've attached an email here that I received from his team in 2023.
The evidence wasn't limited to digital communications. Photos began surfacing online showing David and Celeste together in person, appearing to confirm that their relationship had moved beyond online interactions. One particularly significant image showed David photographed near Celeste's family home in Lake Elsinore, just days before her disappearance in April 2024. The proximity was no coincidence. It suggested a level of planning and intentionality that made the situation even more disturbing. Perhaps most damaging of all was the testimony that emerged from Celeste's own family. Matt Rivas, who identified himself as Celeste's brother, came forward with detailed claims about David's relationship with his sister. In leaked conversations with Reddit users, Matt revealed that he had actually tried to report David to police as early as April 2024, when Celeste first went missing. According to Matt, he had provided evidence to the Lake Elsinore Police Department about David's inappropriate relationship with his underage sister, but was told there wasn't enough evidence to take action. This revelation was perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of the entire case. Here was a concerned family member who had recognized the danger his sister was in and had tried to get help through proper channels, only to be dismissed by authorities who seemingly didn't take the threat seriously enough. Matt's account suggested that if police had acted more decisively on his initial report, Celeste might still be alive today. The family's statements also provided crucial context about Celeste's mindset during her final months. According to her mother's interviews with media outlets, Celeste had been completely infatuated with her older boyfriend David, believing herself to be in a genuine romantic relationship. The manipulation appeared to have been complete. She had been convinced that what was happening to her was normal and consensual, despite being a child who couldn't legally consent to such a relationship. The pattern of behavior that emerged from these revelations was textbook grooming. David allegedly used his fame and influence to isolate Celeste from her support network, convincing her that their relationship was special and that she needed to keep it secret. He provided emotional support during difficult times in her life, gradually escalating the relationship until she was completely dependent on him emotionally and psychologically. But perhaps most disturbing was the mounting evidence that David hadn't been operating alone. Multiple sources suggested that his inner circle, including friends, family members, and professional associates, had been aware of his inappropriate relationships with minors and had either actively enabled the behavior or chosen to remain silent. This included moderators on his Discord server who allegedly helped cover up evidence of inappropriate conversations, as well as friends and collaborators who had witnessed concerning behavior but failed to report it. The extent of the cover-up became clear when other content creators began speaking out, as captured in this clip.
Dude, these people are talking to a known underage dating a fucking adult, brother. These people are talking to a underage person knowingly that they're underage. Like, knowing that they're dating a adult. This is weird. What is wrong with you, bro? And dude, don't blame these guys, bro. I will say my business always about this. You can always blame people that don't around because, bro, they're part of the problem, man.
The professional, Consequences for David were swift and severe. Within days of Celeste's identification, major brands began severing ties with the singer. Perhaps most tellingly, David's own team seemed to be distancing themselves from their client. While his representatives continued to issue statements about cooperation with authorities, there was a notable absence of the kind of vigorous defense typically seen when major artists face serious allegations. The silence suggested that even those closest to David professionally were finding it difficult to defend his actions. Unsurprisingly, there's people still on David's side. Defenders pointed out that D4vd was on tour in Chicago and Minneapolis in the days before and after the Tesla was impounded, making it difficult to place him in Los Angeles during the time of discovery.
Hey, I'm gonna say this right now. He didn't kill anybody, bro. He didn't kill anybody. There's no way. There's no way he's been on tour. He didn't kill anybody. He's been on tour. He literally performed yesterday. Bro, do you see the videos that he makes? There's no way he's killing somebody.
But for all the speculation and analysis, one fact remained stark and unavoidable. A 15-year-old girl was dead, and the evidence suggested her death could have been prevented if more people had chosen to speak up when they first witnessed concerning behavior. The reality that awaits David, if convicted. While social media explodes with memes about David's potential prison experience and true crime enthusiasts speculate about his future behind bars, the reality of what awaits the embattled singer, if charges are filed and he's convicted, is far more complex and significantly more dangerous than most people realize. The investigation into Celeste Rivas's death continues to intensify, with new developments suggesting that formal charges may be imminent. But the prison system that could become David's new reality represents a world completely removed from the luxury and fame he's known for the past 3 years. In Los Angeles, suspects in homicide investigations are first held in LAPD's Metropolitan Detention Center or county jails while awaiting arraignment. For a celebrity, this doesn't mean privacy or comfort. The Los Angeles County jail system, which includes facilities like Men's Central Jail and Twin Towers, has long been one of the most overcrowded and violent detention systems in the United States. In 2024, federal inspectors reported serious violations of basic rights, citing broken plumbing, extreme overcrowding, and unchecked gang violence. Even in pretrial detention, high-profile inmates are at risk. Guards often place celebrities in protective custody, isolated from the general population, but isolation itself can be psychologically crushing. A 2023 report by the Vera Institute found that detainees in protective custody often spend up to 23 hours a day in solitary confinement, leading to depression, anxiety, and in some cases self-harm. For a 20-year-old used to touring arenas, the adjustment would be brutal. If the LAPD investigation results in charges, David would likely be housed at LA County's Twin Towers Correctional Facility during trial. Twin Towers has a reputation for housing mental health cases, gang affiliates, and inmates requiring special protection. Celebrities like Suge Knight and O.J. Simpson both passed through LA County jails, and despite protective measures, both face threats and altercations. Once convicted, however, the picture changes. California's prison system is dominated by racial and gang politics. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, CDCR, separates inmates along racial lines to prevent riots, but the culture of allegiance is unavoidable. White inmates often align with groups like the Aryan Brotherhood, Latino inmates with groups like the Mexican Mafia or Serenos, and black inmates with sets linked to Bloods, Crips, or prison-specific gangs. For a young, non-gang affiliated celebrity like David, navigating this landscape would be perilous. The internet jokes about his soft voice and sad songs masking him as weak are rooted in this harsh reality. Prison hierarchies often target non-violent, non-gang inmates, especially if they are young, well-known, or perceived as vulnerable. The fact that his alleged victim was 15 years old only makes matters worse. In prison culture, crimes against minors are considered the lowest offense. Inmates convicted of such crimes are routinely attacked, extorted, or even killed if housed in general population. Even protective custody would not guarantee safety. Inmates have been known to bribe guards, manipulate transfers, or attack during movement. For a case with this much media coverage, where his name and alleged crimes would be known to every inmate in the facility, his risk would be magnified. The LAPD, as of late September 2025, has not charged David with homicide. Their investigation is ongoing, focused on Tesla GPS records, keycard logs, and surveillance footage from the area where the car was abandoned. Detectives seized a computer and hard drives from a property tied to him on Doheny Place. Sources told TMZ that they are analyzing his digital history for connections to Celeste. While no charges have been filed, the speculation of prison time has outpaced the investigation itself. This speculation is fueled by his own art. Romantic Homicide contains lyrics about killing a lover named Celeste and living with the memory. Fans now reframe these lyrics as confessions, turning them into soundtracks for edits of prison cells and mugshots. The unreleased demo Celeste only intensified this belief, with lines about eternal devotion and tattoos that directly echoed his real-life ties to her. The internet's obsession with David's prison cell memes reflects a cultural pattern. Celebrities accused of heinous crimes often become the subject of online satire before legal outcomes are known. From R. Kelly to Tekashi 6ix9ine, the spectacle of imagining them in prison becomes its own entertainment. But for the individuals involved, the reality is not humorous. California prisons are among the most violent in the nation. In 2022, CDCR reported more than 6,000 assaults, including 2,000 involving weapons. If convicted of homicide or even accessory charges, David would likely face decades in state prison. His age, just 20, means he would be entering the system at his most vulnerable. For comparison, the rapper YNW Melly, who was accused of double homicide at age 19, has spent years in Florida jails awaiting trial, facing daily threats, isolation, and deteriorating mental health. Observers draw parallels between the two, arguing that if charges come, David's future would mirror Melly's, an endless cycle of court delays and survival in confinement. The cultural consequences are already unfolding. His streaming numbers have declined sharply. Playlist curators quietly removed him from flagship Spotify and Apple Music lists. Concert venues canceled remaining shows. Brands erased him from campaigns. Within 2 weeks of Celeste's identification, his career appeared to be collapsing in real time. Yet, despite all this, some fans continue to defend him. They argue he was on tour when the Tesla was abandoned, that the car could have been used without his knowledge, and that lyrics should not be treated as evidence. In their view, the rush to prison memes and career cancellations is trial by internet. They cite other cases, like that of NBA YoungBoy or Tory Lanez, where media speculation preceded legal outcomes. But the difference here lies in the age of the victim and the brutal details of her death. A 15-year-old dismembered and left in a car tied to his name is not a scandal that fades. Whether or not he is charged, the stigma is permanent. The memes about his prison cell may exaggerate, but they reflect the gravity of how he is now perceived, not just as a rising artist, but as a potential predator facing the darkest of futures. The LAPD's case remains open. Toxicology results are pending. Digital forensics are underway. No charges have been filed. But in the court of public opinion, the verdict is already in. For much of the world, David's prison cell isn't a question of if, but when. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.